What's your fuck this? I quit story? Worked at a Spencer's Gifts for a bit during uni. I was working and saw that I was scheduled for an evening shift the day before a morning exam. So I asked the manager if I could switch. She said no. The schedule is already made up. Went back and forth trying to negotiate with her. She ended with, "You're going to have to decide what's more important. The shift or your exam." Joined a call center with the obvious shady pay structure. They said the calls are inbound, so I thought, hey, that's not too bad then. Turns out the inbound calls were generated by their call system, indirectly implying that they were Google but never saying so, and we were directed to use some dubious answer if someone asked, "Are you Google?" After getting yelled at and cussed out and constantly getting people who had been called many times before and were clearly irate, I just got up and left in the middle of the day. I also complained to Google that these guys were pretending to be Google. And these guys were poop scared of getting complaints like that. Seriously fricked up people. I was fractured my orbital socket in an industrial accident. Another employee lost focus at the wrong time, was supposed to wait for a hand signal and didn't. We had been working over 90 days straight of 13-14 hour shifts and living in crappy motel a 45-minute drive from our work site. We were supposed to be on a rotation where we didn't work more than 3 weeks at a time. It was a close call and could have been a lot worse. I'm glad I saw it coming and had time to at least try and get out of the way. I got sent away after a night in the ER while the rest of that crew continued to work. After spending 2 or 3 days at home, the boss called to say that he needed me in Alaska in 2 days and that my flight was already booked. Told him I quit right on the spot. My mom's. I was studying overseas and my parents booked a trip to come out at the end of the school term. Bringing along my 2 siblings, one who lived away from home, the other about to start college. It was a month-long trip. With lots of prepaid flights, trains, hotels, plus it would likely be the last big trip we all took together. Obviously. Both my parents requested and secured approved PTO months in advance. It was the month of June, typical summer vacation. A couple days before the trip was to happen, my mom's boss hands her an assignment. Mom hands it back, saying she can't take it on as she has a month-long vacation about to start. My folks don't believe in hyperbole, but trip of a lifetime would be a fair description. Boss says, "Oh yay. Sorry. You can't take vacation anymore." Mom says, "If you cancel my PTO, I quit." Boss. Blank stare. Mom handed in her notice and left. We had an amazing trip. She got a new job on return. My first job. I was assigned to a specific area, and I thought I was doing my job well. One Monday, I was pulled into the office and asked why, whatever thing it was, I don't remember, hasn't been done for the last 2 weeks. I replied I wasn't aware it was part of my duties. My supervisor said he was putting me on a mandatory non-paid vacation for 2 weeks. No warning. No explanation on why I all of a sudden had to do work for a different department. So I said don't worry about it. I quit. It was a lousy job anyway. I was only getting paid 18 hours a week but was doing more than that. 16 and stupid, I guess. I had to negotiate a raise for 3 weeks and finally met in the middle at 50 cents more an hour, half a dollar. It was a ridiculous amount of negotiating. I was a top producer. I then applied somewhere else and got the position. I didn't want to leave my current job but knew I was being underpaid. The new manager pulled me aside and asked what it would take for me to stay. I kind of just threw out that I wanted $10 more an hour. Without hesitating, the manager says done. She started to call our district manager and send over paperwork. By the end of my shift she presented me with paperwork to sign for $10 more an hour. I quit on the spot. They caused me so much stress over 50 cents more an hour for 3 weeks when it was in the budget to give me at least $10. 50 more. I now make 6x of what I made there. Know your worth. A little Greek restaurant I worked at early in high school. Got hired. And spent the first 2 days cleaning everything the owner and son were too lazy to clean. Years worth of old grease in the deep fryer's interior. Mold in the fridges. Stains in the bathrooms, etc. Just freaking gross. Ask about payday on the end of the second day and it went something like this. So, how does payday work here? Is it weekly? Bi-weekly? What? You are on training. If we like the job you do we will hire you with pay. Confused. I ask, so you're saying that you're not going to pay me for cleaning years worth of mold, grease, and bathroom stains? No. You will be paid for work once your training is done. Oh. Okay. Frick this. I quit. I worked for a big chain tire store in a very rich part of town for a while. I was overqualified for the job. But it's what was hiring. One day I get a call saying another tech got fired for failing a piss test. I get in and our lead tech comes in with a torn bicep and has to be gone for a few months. So I'm now the most knowledgeable person in the shop. Taking on a ton of extra duties and extra hours. So working 60 plus HRS a week as the only tech with any diagnostic abilities, I ask for a raise promotion. The guy that was hired on a week earlier. Amazing tire buster but can't do any mechanical repair past changing an air filter. Get a double promotion and $1 per hour raise. Put in my notice on the spot. I worked for a group home. We had a difficult group of residents. But the company things so much worse. Every resident was 14-22 years old. They had moderate mental development delays, 65-75 IQ range. They all had a psychiatric disorder, from severe ADHD to schizophrenia. And they had also all been convicted of a violent sexual crime. I worked third shift. My normal hours were 10:30 PM to 9 AM. 4 days a week. About 6 months into working there, they did a massive layoff. They went down to bare minimum staff to student ratio each shift. With nobody extra to call in if needed. That meant if someone called out, a person on the previous shift was forced. It got to the point where I was being forced 3 out of 4 shifts per week. And not just a few hours. I was working 10:30 PM to around 4:30 PM the next day. And still having to come in for my following shift. I had an hour commute each way. So I'd get home at 5:30 PM from a 16-hour shift. And have to leave the house again 4 hours later. Managed that for about a month. Then one morning I was told last minute I was being forced. Told them I was freaking done and walked out. That month took a huge toll on my mental health. Swear it took me like a year to recover. Was getting screamed at in a meeting by some marketing jerk that was literally demanding my technical group perform magic on a completely unrealistic time schedule with almost no resources. Literally screaming at me in front of about 8 of my peers. Calling me incompetent. Just do your job. All of that. I stood up. Said I refused to be talked to like that. And left the meeting. Normally if you just get up and leave these types of meetings, you're fired. Boss scheduled a meeting with me later in the afternoon after hearing about it. Figured I'd be walked out. Was told they fired the marketing guy. That was my effort. I quit moment. But the company kept me on and fired the other guy. Pretty happy. It's been a solid place to work ever since. My first job was at a fast food restaurant. I only lasted about 3 months. The manager was sleazy. The employees were straight up lazy. I had to mop up one day. There was an area in the kitchen where you kinda have to lean forward so you can slide the mop under a counter. The manager decided to come out of the office and just stand behind me and watch. I looked at him and asked, is there something wrong? He said no, but just wanted to make sure I cleaned correctly. Right. Because there was no worry about how well I cleaned the rest of the kitchen. But now that I'm bending over there is. I immediately stopped and walked out. First job at McDonald's. 3 different managers all telling me to do different things. And getting mad when I listen to the others. I overheard the worst manager say to the people at the register, and many customers behind the counter that someone need to teach Alice how to do her job. I didn't even say anything. Just walked out. Had a job that had flexible hours. I work 7 to 3. Our clients left at 2 and I usually wrapped all my work up before 3. Well, our manager quit one day and this enormous cunt took his place. He came and began ranting that people weren't putting in 8 hours, started saying that he was going to report our department head to upper management and the people that worked 10-6 he would try to force them into the office by 8. This guy was a massive cunt. I actually completed the most tickets and mentored people. One day he pulled me into the office and told me he wanted me to stay later and that I was doing a terrible job. Asked this piece of poop to check the metrics, to which he said he didn't care. I just stood up and yelled at him. Turned in my notice. I worked as a server at a fancy theater. We were all students but were expected to be professional servers, even though they hired everybody without experience because there was such a high turnover rate. So New Year's Eve comes by. Nobody wants to work and my best work friend, female, volunteers to work that night. The night is a huge poop show. The manager already had some existing anger issues and because of a misunderstanding he thought my friend was trying to steal money. What could have been talked out easily escalated to him pushing her against a wall so hard that she dislocated her shoulder. She went to the hospital after because the police told her that she needed a doctor's confirmation if she wanted to press charges. 1 week goes by. She decides she will not press charges and the guy is still working there. She is getting no shifts and when another server gets sick she just takes the shift and shows up. The manager that pushed her and a higher manager that also worked there call her into the office and tell her that she is fired. I just took off my apron and walked out with her. After 1 month about 3/4 of the staff also quit and it really fricked them over. My first job, at a pizza delivery place. I was almost 18 and I overheard my manager, in his 40s, and a few delivery drivers talking about throwing me a birthday party and spiking my drinks so they could do things to me. They had no idea I was around the corner listening. Maybe they were joking. Maybe they weren't. I didn't care. I quit right then and there. Had a super poopty job at a donut shop. I was promised a raise, which I never received. We always worked alone at the shop, so I never got to know anyone else. Never got their phone numbers. Yet the non-written policy was that you would find someone to cover your shifts. One day, I woke up and knew immediately that I had strep throat. Went to the doctor and he confirmed that it was strep. And it was really bad. Worst I have ever had it. So knowing that I was contagious for at least 2 days. And knowing that I shouldn't be around people or food. And am not even able to speak. I texted my boss. I didn't have a shift scheduled until the next day. Told her I won't be in for at least a week because of my strep. She told me I will have to find someone to cover my shifts. I told her that's not possible because I don't have anyone's number. I can't speak. And in all honesty was in so much pain I just wanted to pass out. She told me that if I cannot find someone to cover, I will have to come in. And if I don't come in I won't have a job. I replied with cool. Guess I don't have a job then. I returned my gear 2 weeks later once I had recovered. Never spoke to that cunt again. My father's story. He was a 22-year-old millwright and he had been working for the company for 4 years. He asked for a raise because one was given to a co-worker who had the same job. He was told that his co-worker has kids and a family to provide for and that's why he was given a raise. And since my dad had no children at that time he didn't need one. My dad applied for a job that paid almost twice as much with great benefits. He gave in his notice and the manager said, "Will you stay if we give you the raise you wanted?" He declined and worked for the second company for 35 years and retired last December. After taking a few days off work while my father was having a brain tumor removed, and still checking emails and attending conference calls from the hospital, my boss gave me a new project. On a Thursday afternoon she gave me a Monday morning deadline for a project that would take 6-8 days to complete. I work 16 hours a day to get it done. When we met on Monday, she asked how my weekend was. I worked all weekend. Then she asked if I got to visit my dad in the hospital. No. I didn't get a chance because I worked all weekend. A couple weeks later, she pulled me into a meeting and said, I feel like you were resentful because you had to work, and I feel like I was really good when your dad was sick. Maybe you're just tired. Are you tired? She'd also make comments when I would leave the office on time, not early. On time. It's great that you just get up and go when your day is over. Like I have to go because I have a daughter. But you don't have any kids and you just leave at the end of the day. Yeah. Bitch. I don't live here. I don't go home and sit in a dark room counting the hours until I get to come back here. I'm also not curing cancer. Nothing we do here matters to anyone outside of here. I give you 100% when I'm here. But when my day is done, it's freaking done. I no longer work there.
Hi there. Look, if you enjoyed the video, well, why not go ahead and hit that like and subscribe to Reddit Stories. In fact, if you want to see even more responses to this thread, well then, take a look. There's the link in the description below. And remember, show some love to those authors while you're there. And I look forward to seeing you next time.